Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Grundleverse. My name is Grundle, and today we are looking at Pacific Rim 2. Pacific Rim 2 is as good as it could be. And I know that sounds like a backhanded compliment, but I mean it sincerely. The first movie ends with the breach closed, most of the main characters dead, almost all the Jaegers gone, and no real reason to have any more giant robots, which leaves the sequel in a very weird spot as far as story is concerned. If there are no kaiju, who do the robots fight? And if there are going to be kaiju, how do you bring them back without it just being, oh, well, we wanted the sequel, so look, the breach is back open again. And honestly, that's what I expected. I thought I was going to walk into this and it was going to be, oops, the breach is open, of course it's open again. And you just get a rehash of the first movie again, which would have been alright. I mean, the first movie was solid, the action was good, so if that was just what we were getting, I could have been okay with it, but somebody actually took the time and wrote a real story here. Don't get me wrong, it's not high theater, but whenever I thought I knew where the plot was going to go for the rest of the movie, it would shift up and keep you guessing where the main threat was coming from. And the fact that they were able to keep the story moving ahead pretty well was surprising, considering they had to take the time to introduce basically an entirely new cast. You have Charlie Day and Bern Gorman returning as the two scientist guys from the first one, so you have them. And Rinko Kikuchi returns as Mako, but in a much smaller role. But those three are pretty much the only three returning characters in this movie. Instead, the lead in this movie is taken by John Boyega, who we all remember as Finn from the new Star Wars. And I was actually pretty happy with him. I'm not really a big fan of him in general, but he managed to carry his weight in this one. It was nice to see him in a full-on lead role. Granted, he plays the character very similarly to the way he plays Finn, but that just means funny and charming, so it's not really a bad thing. The other major new addition is Kaylee Spaney? I don't know, she plays a spunky orphan mechanic that pretty much has to be in every movie that you have giant robots running around in. In the end, I didn't find her annoying. She had some good interplay with Boyega's character, so I'm going to say she was fine. And there have been a lot of really good child actors lately, so I don't want to say she was great and give her a pass because she's a child actor, but she was fine. And if you can get to the movie without hating the spunky orphan with an attitude, then they did their job. Outside of them, I'd say the only other person in the cast worth mentioning is Charlie Day, and that's just to say Charlie Day is always awesome. So if the cast and the story are decent enough to keep you from avoiding the movie, then the big question is, are the action scenes enough to get you to go see the movie? This is a Pacific Rim movie after all. Keeping in mind, the breach was closed at the end of the first movie, so this one is not fully concerned with fighting giant kaiju. And that winds up being a good thing, because instead of having just one kaiju fight after another, the movie does have to keep finding new giant action figures to smash against each other, which ultimately allows for a decent amount of different set pieces for the action. In fact, a big positive story-wise is that rather than after the breach closing in the first one, the whole world saying, well, no more kaiju, no reason to build Jaegers, apparently the world kept building Jaegers, so we've got a lot of really fancy new Jaegers to play with this time. And when it comes down to it, that's what you're going to see a Pacific Rim movie for. The story is good, which is fine, but the big action figures have got to be awesome. And they are. Each Jaeger has some fancy thing that it does, and the new Jaegers do look big and flashy. The only real criticism I have for this is that, just like the first one, every Jaeger outside the main one gets, one or two cool moments, and then it gets destroyed, or its weapon gets ripped off, or gets disabled in some way. So you have a bunch of cool characters and robots, and they all get about as much screen time as the big Russian robot from the first movie. They do make up for that with a variety of settings and enemies to fight. Like I said, it's not just kaiju this time, so it stays fresh throughout. Just don't get too attached to any one robot, because you probably won't see too much of it. Beyond that, there weren't a lot of big glaring flaws in the movie. The one part that felt fairly clunky, though, was that John Boyega's character is supposed to be the son of Idris Elba's character from the first movie, but he's never mentioned in the first movie, and there's some timeline issues when you really stop and think about it. But it doesn't have any actual impact on this movie, so I don't want to knock it for it, but if you're a big fan of the first one, you might find yourself noticing some plot holes, but nothing game-breaking. And beyond that, I didn't really have any big issues with the movie. I thought it was fairly solid end-to-end. It maybe wasn't as good as the first one, but that's kind of hard to judge since we had novelty for the first one, and this one is a sequel. But like I said at the beginning, they did as good a job with this as they could have done. I think there was a lot of limitations on what was possible with this movie, and I was happy with what they gave me. If you liked the first one, just go see this one. And see it in the big screen. Don't wait for the small screen, because obviously you want to see the giant robots blow up on a big screen. If you didn't like the first one, or weren't at all interested in seeing it, you're probably not going to like or be interested in this one. It's the same general idea. If giant action figures smashing off of each other are not what you want to see on the screen, don't go see Pacific Rim. But for all those of us who like to see giant action figures smash into each other with decent dialogue and a decent story, Pacific Rim is good. Go for it. And there you have it. That's my review of Pacific Rim 2. If you liked what you heard here, remember I'm starting out. Hit like, subscribe, follow, whatever buttons are on the screen, except for the thumbs down button. Don't press that button. So thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Grundle. Good night, everybody.